Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones. I know pretty much every Game of the Year video is going to start this way, but when it comes to quality titles, 2023 has been lauded as one of the greatest years for video games. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Starfield, Spider-Man 2. These are just some of the games that I didn't play, so don't expect to see any of them in this video. But anyway, welcome to the 2023 Straime Awards, the accolade show that's like the Game Awards, only with my name in it. And unlike the real Game Awards, I'll actually spend more time on the awards than I do on random celebrity cameos. I've got 10 arbitrary awards in categories that I just made up, and games to deliver them unto based on my personal rankings, with a few other prizes tossed in for good measure. As always, before I begin, let's go over the rules for what games are or aren't eligible for our ceremony today. First and foremost, the game must have had an official release, either physical or digital, in 2023. For example, Shadows Over Loathing technically came out in 2022, but I bought and played the Nintendo Switch version, which didn't come out until 2023. Which actually brings me to rule number 2. The 2023 release has to have been my first time playing the game for it to be eligible. Otherwise, I just don't really see it as a game of that particular year. As much as I love Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, I played it as a DS game back in 2011, and I'm not going to count it as a game of 2023. However, I do allow a loophole for remakes and re-releases if I feel they added enough new content for me to consider them new enough experiences. And lastly, no demos or early access games, regardless of how much I loved them, they'll have to wait their turns. As always, please remember that if a game you love isn't on this list, I just didn't enjoy it as much as you, or much more likely, I didn't even play it. Oh yeah, and obligatory yearly space venture mention. Somehow it's still not out, despite releasing for Kickstarter backers in 2022. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's move on to our first award of the evening. Not to get too preachy or anything, but the planet affects all of us, because we live here. So I want you all to go do one thing that's good for the Earth. After you watch this video, of course. Because now it's time for the Give a Hoot, Don't Tinkle in the Ocean Award for Best Environmentally Friendly Game. Every year there's always at least one game where I can just turn off my brain, grab some hot cocoa, and just be. A cozy experience that engrosses me without stressing me out. And this year that game was Lottlenut, a small underwater sandbox where you play as this little fellow and clean up the depths of the ocean on an alien world. You blast away disgusting goop, recycle metal, plastic, and glass to get upgrades, and even befriend these adorable alien creatures called Luddles. The cleaning and recycling mechanics actually reminded me a lot of my favorite aspects of Chibi Robo, which is a huge positive. The game admittedly could have used a little bit more in terms of story or characters, but what's here is really nice, and I'm always a sucker for underwater environments, so I had a really good time with this game. Look, sometimes I get a little too comfortable while playing games, and it's not a pretty picture. You know when you're playing a game and the screen fades to black and you catch a glimpse of your reflection in the screen and... yeah, it's not great. Why do you think I stopped recording live action segments? But sometimes it's good to hop up from the couch and get some, in the loosest possible sense, exercise. That's why I'm giving the Real to Real award for best game that got me off my butt to WarioWare Move It. A few years ago, WarioWare Get It Together got the award for best game I played in 2021 that started with the letter W. Truthfully, I think I was just so excited for the idea of WarioWare on the Switch that I didn't notice at the time how, honestly, just kinda okay it was. Fortunately, this year made up for that by giving us WarioWare Move It, which was a lot of fun, and I think is the closest we've had to capturing the greatness of smooth moves back on the Wii, but with a fun tropical island aesthetic that you all know I'm a big fan of. When the WarioWare series embraces goofiness like this, I think it's genuinely some of the best examples of motion-based gameplay, and it's just pure fun in a way that's both chaotic and satisfying. And I'm gonna warn you all now that this is the only Nintendo game on this list. If you're wondering where Super Mario Bros. Wonder and the Mario RPG remake are, well... Wario, you wanna explain this one for me?
No money.
If there's one indie company that consistently works its way into my top 10, it's Deveki Studios, who frequently deliver engaging FMV murder mysteries with supernatural vibes and gorgeous redheads. In 2023, they gave us a far more engaging and hands-on mystery experience than some of their other titles, and that's why I'm awarding the Shoot, Hang, and Frame Award for Best Artistic Murder Mystery to Murderous Muses. I already did an entire mini indie review on this game, so I won't go too deep into it, but essentially you play as a museum security guard and try to use these living paintings to solve puzzles across 3 nights to try and deduce who the killer could be. There's an engaging atmosphere, amazing world building, and some solid acting from all the main characters. Honestly, I think this is one of the studio's best titles, and I look forward to seeing where they go from here. Check it out sometime if you want to feel clever in your deductive reasoning skills. You know, every year I do this whole Best Waifu of the Year quote-unquote award, and just give it to all of them because video game waifus are awesome. So how's about I just drop the pretense of this being an award and give you 10 great game waifus of 2023. Corsica from Hi-Fi Rush, Butterfly from Mato Anomalies, Shinigami from Master Detective Archives Raincode, Needhogger from Fire Emblem Heroes, Sophia from Lies of P, Guernica from Persona 5 Tactica Repaint Your Heart, Sybil from Pseudo Regalia, Kuni from Loop 8 Summer of Gods, Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3, and Arya from Eternights, who sadly in a romance game was not dateable because oh my god, look at her. Anyway, remember to tell me your best waifu of 2023 in the comments below. I'm the first to admit that despite playing through all the games in the main series, I have a rocky history with Danganronpa. Because while I am a sucker for games like Ace Attorney and enjoyed the individual mysteries in the series, I never really liked the characters and overall plots of Danganronpa. Which is why I'm giving the Literal Ghost Award for Best Spiritual Successor to Master Detective Archives Raincode. Rather than continuing the Danganronpa series, Kodaka decided to make a brand new game involving the Master Detectives, unique individuals with special abilities called Fortes that enable them to solve crimes in a city where it's always raining. While a lot of the investigating and deductive gameplay segments are similar to Danganronpa, the world is much more open, and you solve the crimes by entering distinct puzzle worlds called the Mystery Labyrinth, thanks to your ghostly sidekick Shinigami. While I will admit I found most of the individual mysteries to be a little less clever or engaging than what we've seen in Danganronpa, I was far more engrossed in the world, characters, and overarching plot of Master Detective Archives. And unlike all 3 Danganronpa games, I didn't verbally scream, "Oh, go f*** yourself," at my TV when they started revealing the final story twists. So take that for whatever you want. The reason why I usually wait until January to put out these videos is because sometimes a late year entry manages to give me something that I've really wanted this year. Like, you can make cookies anytime, but don't they always taste better when they're Christmas cookies? And that's why I'm giving the Those Awesome Christmas Cookies with the Hershey's Kiss in the Middle award for Best December Game to Born of Bread. To oversimplify things, Born of Bread is in the family of indie games that decided to say, "I'll do it myself," to Nintendo no longer making Paper Mario games like the first 2. Oh man, I'm really excited for that Thousand Year Door remake. You play as Loaf, a charming little bread boy, and go on a wacky adventure with different partner characters to try and save a kingdom and your Papa Baker. The game has pretty charming visuals and awesome music. The overworld gameplay is solid, but the battles can be a little bland, which is unfortunate given its open inspirations. The writing is often cute and humorous, but I'll admit their style of comedy isn't always my cup of tea, and it can be weirdly reference-heavy in places. While I don't think Born of Bread quite lives up to the greatness of Paper Mario, it's still a tasty treat that was a wonderful way to wrap up the end of the year. And after some delicious bread, I want something cool and refreshing to wash it down. So let's hand out the Iced Mocha Latte with Almond Milk Award for Best Chill Experience to Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly. I absolutely adore the Coffee Talk franchise, and some of you may remember the first game was my number 3 title back in 2020. I also did a mini indie review on this one where I said it was fitting they called this Episode 2 rather than just 2, because in many ways it does feel like more of an expansion than a full sequel. It was great seeing old faces, and connecting with new characters over a green tea latte was as satisfying as ever. The game came out when I needed a relaxing experience, and that's absolutely what I got. The pixel art is still fantastic, the soundtrack is amazing and chill and awesome, and the additions to the game like new specialty drinks and inventory mechanics made it stand out in a good way. Definitely worth a playthrough for fans of the original title. Our next side award of the evening goes to my favorite video game meme of 2023. And obviously, no one deserves this spot more than fan community Fakemon ReggieTube. Originally inspired by a humorous TikTok video re-uploaded with Pokemon battle music, ReggieTube quickly spawned some amazing fan art and impressive mod work. Sometimes it's just nice seeing the Pokemon fanbase come together over something, even if it is just a great big blue inflatable goober. I love it. In 2019, I gave my Game of the Year to Fire Emblem Three Houses, an SRPG focusing on political upheaval between three rival kingdoms. In 2022, I gave my Game of the Year to Triangle Strategy, an SRPG with a dumb name focusing on political upheaval between three rival kingdoms. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that the You Absolutely Saw This Coming award for Best Persona 5 Game of 2023 goes to Persona 5 Tactica, an SRPG focusing on political upheaval, and there are technically four kingdoms, and they're not really warring, but hey, Tactica was fun. The mechanics were interesting and satisfying. Toshiro ended up being a pretty good character, though it's a bummer he didn't get a full costume like most Phantom Thieves, and the music was good, though that's really not surprising at this point. I'll admit I have not hit that Persona 5 fatigue that a lot of other people have, so I still really enjoyed this title. And honestly, I thought the Repaint Your Heart chapter was an utterly fantastic story. Even if it did suck we had to pay for it, but I still enjoyed it. And hey, it lets me make this joke.
Take that, Guernica!
I think I still prefer Strikers as far as Persona 5 side games go, but this one was definitely worth the time I put into it. And now, I'd like to take a serious moment, because our next side award of the evening is an in memoriam for Biggest Bummer Cancelled Game. The Golden Girls Take Manhattan DX was an awesome looking Golden Girls but their Persona users game that I was really looking forward to. But sadly, the project was cancelled around Halloween of last year. No idea if the dev ever plans to revive the idea or do anything else with it, but I truly wish everybody who worked on it all the best on their future projects. You ever feel like you just have to keep going with something, even when the smarter option would be to just stop? I see you eyeing that hangnail. We've all pinched it and torn backwards a little farther than we should, and it hurts. And I have to wonder, what compels people to do things that go against their better interests? Truthfully, I think it all boils down to this category. It's time for the Horrors of Human Compulsion Award for Best Just One More Turn game. World of Horror is a 1-bit roguelike RPG experience that takes inspiration from horror authors Junji Ito and H.P. Lovecraft. You solve mysteries centered around common tropes of Japanese horror by exploring areas, making stat rolls, and hoping that you don't die before you ascend the lighthouse and try and stop the oncoming destruction. It's really easy to fail and really easy to die, but I've always found myself hopping right back in to try it again. The mysteries you get each playthrough are randomized, and they all have multiple endings, so it's always a good idea to try something different and see if you unlock something new or do a little better than last time. I am a huge fan of the aesthetics of this game, and it's just the right level of creepy for me. Some of you may remember a few years ago, this game was my go-to example for not including early access games, no matter how much I loved them. So yeah, I'm not shocked at all that the final release ended up being one of my absolute favorite games of 2023. Look, at this point, it's no surprise that I enjoy the Like a Dragon franchise. From Yakuza Kiwami 2 being my top game of 2018, to other titles like the Judgment games also getting accolades from me, to me recently doing a full video on Streets of Kamurocho. I love this franchise. But it's in a very weird position right now, where I'm actually going to award my number 2 spot to the Past, Present, and Future Award for Best Multi-Part Series. See, Like a Dragon Ishin, the historical drama where you play in the time of samurai, was one of my first really big titles of 2023, so it focuses on the past. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, is a game I'm actually playing through right now because VGP didn't ship out the physical copies until super late 2023, so that's the present. And in just a few more weeks, I'll be losing my freaking mind over Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth taking the series to my homeland of Hawaii, so that covers the future. I guess you could say I'm kinda cheating by giving this award to both Ishin and Gaiden, but honestly, I'm okay with that. This isn't even the first time I've had multiple entries in this franchise share an award spot. I'd always rather do that and give other games a chance to shine than spread this out over multiple slots because I know that I could. Now, before I reveal my Game of the Year, it's time for the annual award Patreon Pick Game of the Year, where my loyal patrons voted and nominated on their top games over this past year. I'm super grateful to all of my patrons, and if you want to be a part of this future tradition, please consider pledging today. Without further ado, their pick for this year was Stray Gods: The Role-Playing Musical. Now, admittedly, I've not played this title, but from what I can see, it's a gorgeously animated musical interactive story set in a world where the Greek myths live among us. Oh yeah, and also there's a murder. I'm not just saying this because it's a musical, but it certainly sounds like a good time, which I guess is why my patrons voted on it as their top game of 2023. If you've played the game, let me know in the comments below. How was it? Look, 2023 had some good games. 2023 had some great games, and I absolutely expect that some of you are gonna be mad about my Game of the Year choice. But what can I say? I like to live dangerously. Look, is Dangeresque the Rumisode Triungulant actually the best game of 2023? Of course not. It's an upgraded version of an old Flash game. A very good upgraded version of an old Flash game with new levels, jokes, voice acting, and more, sure, but overall, a very short and simple point-and-click title. But there is a reason why I do genuinely have it at my number 1. 2023 was a chaotic year for me, but there was also a lot of great stuff, like getting out of Florida, hitting 10,000 subscribers, this is my 300th video, and partnering with Dubby Energy. Use promo code STRAIN for 10% off your online order. But there was also a lot of bad stuff too, and some of these big changes were not that easy to deal with. However, no matter how many things changed, sometimes it's just nice to find something that stayed exactly the same. I've adored the world of Homestar Runner for over 20 years, and heck, one of those good things that happened to me this year was I actually appeared in the Fanstooms video of 2023. Speaking of, also check out Homestar Runner Halloween Hide and Seek. That was a short but fun game too, and it's great knowing this series is as funny, charming, and enjoyable as ever. The Rumisode Triungulant was the perfect game for me this year. It was short, enjoyable, funny, had great voice acting, enjoyable pixel graphics, and some of the puzzles genuinely made me feel clever. Of course, it wasn't the best game, but truthfully, it was my favorite this year. And if you don't like it, you can just... Oop, sorry, looks like I have to move on. Alright, and there you have it, the 2023 Straime Awards. Look, I'll admit, this was a very peculiar year for games for me, and I certainly found myself focusing more on smaller adventures I could play here and there over massive projects I could get sucked into. But I still had a lot of fun with the games I played, and with any luck, this video highlighted a few titles for you that you may not have heard of, over all the huge titles that I know are going to be on most folks' lists. As always, let me know what your favorite titles of 2023 were in the comments below. I want to take a moment to thank everybody still watching this video after all this. Late last year, I hit 10,000 subscribers, and like I said, this video you're watching right now is actually my 300th video on the channel. I've got some big plans for things this year, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really does help out a lot. I hope you all have a wonderful and happy new year, and until next time, take care.